Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Illumi-Nation. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode. We are super excited today to have our guest, Kendra Raymond, with us. I want to just say a couple of things for those of you tuning back into this podcast. Illumi-Nation is our opportunity to bring to you all things spiritual. For those of you who are healers, those of you who may just be embarking on this new journey, all are welcome. And we're always looking for people for our podcast. So please shoot us an email and we'll have all of that information in the show notes. All right, let's get started. So Kendra, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled.
I'm just going to read a short bio to introduce you. We'll have your full bio in the show notes. So Kendra is an intuitive healer and wellness coach, and she focuses on finding proper individual balance for each of her clients using a combination of yoga, traditional fitness modalities, energy healing, body work, meditation, and nutritional consulting to develop a program that will help bring balance to her clients' bodies, mind, and spirits. With 25 years of yoga and mindfulness practice under her belt, as well as multiple certifications, she uses her experience, expertise, and intuition to assist clients in achieving their goals by turning into a new level of body awareness. So we are super excited to dive right into this conversation with you this morning.
So excited that you're here.
My favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me this little meme or like quote or something last week, and I felt so compelled to share it on the Spiritual People of New England's page because it hit so hard. And then when you and I started going back and forth in the comments, I'm like, we need to have her on. We need to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. So why don't we just dive right in and start with your story, how you got where you are?
Absolutely. So I always kind of start by saying my kids really did, they were the catalyst for this for me. I started yoga back in 1998, which if any of you were in the yoga world in 1998 here on the North Shore of Massachusetts, where I am, it was non-existent outside of like Bikram or going out to Kripalu, which I didn't even know existed then. So I was a Bikram addict. But what yoga did for me is it got me into my body in a way that the gym, I was a gym rat. I was like 2 hours a day at the gym. Yoga got me in touch with something that I didn't know I was capable of. You stand in a 105-degree room for 90 minutes and you become your own little superhero. Let me tell you that. So that was just very empowering. And then it just rolled from there. Then it was like, I just started to take more classes. I felt after my son was born, and I felt like I had zero time to myself and he was colicky and I was losing my mind. I came up with this, like, I'm going to start something and it's going to be called Me Time. And it's just going to give mothers a chance to get into their bodies while their kids are safely taken care of. And that is ultimately what I kind of built. I had a concierge yoga business where I would actually roll out a yoga studio wherever you needed me to, your home, your office, wherever. That was wonderful. And it really took off. And then we hit the pandemic. So I was doing that for about 10 years. It was in 22 to 25 homes at a time. Fast forward, I started into some energy work through yoga. Again, always my foundation. And the energy work brought me deeper into how I could get in touch with my spirituality and the healing power of my own body through movement, through eating the right things and all of that. But what I have found most fascinating in these last, really since the pandemic, since I've had time to give to myself and time to rest and time to meet people like Val and do some shadow work and deep healing, I was really missing out on a piece of my potential by not tuning into my physical body as well as I thought I should. I had a very disordered eating past, and that sticks with you no matter how strong or well or healthy you think you are. And I'm now 51, and I can happily say that I am every day intentionally caring for and nurturing my body in a way that I thought I had been doing by working out, by hydrating, doing it. I wasn't nurturing my body the way I would nurture my child. And I
Right.
owe that to myself, especially now. And I think that everybody does.
Yeah, I think that it's actually so true. And I know my past, I actually owned a weight loss center for almost a decade, right? So here I am, doing the same thing, very much advising people on how to be healthy. And I definitely was missing a lot within my own nutrition too.
Yeah.
Stepping into spirituality, everyone's like mind, body, soul connection, this and that, self-love, this and that. And we hyper focus, or most of us do, on like the energy aspect or learning all of these tools. And I noticed that the body was the very last thing that I actually was worried about. I would be working and I would eat maybe for the first time. Yeah, I had a protein shake for breakfast. And sometimes I would go till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'd finally be so starving. I would take down a pizza or something. Like, I mean, it's very important to understand how we neglect the physical body with the mind, body, and soul balance. And I kind of wanted to get your take on that because I struggle with that myself. Moving into this place, I had put on 13 pounds. I couldn't figure out how to lose it. And at the end of the day, I had somebody come do a meal prep with me. And I just wasn't eating enough. Like, how stupid. I know better. I've actually taken nutrition classes. It's like, you need to eat food. It's so ridiculous. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Again, so I would say, again, if you want to get right down to it, we start as a physical atom of energy. Okay. So it stands to reason that our physicality is extremely important to our human experience.
Right.
It's also the one thing, because there are 5 senses just continuously giving us information, we don't pay attention to our subtleties anymore physically. No. We are so caught up because of, whatever our past lives, ancestry, etc. has been. We're so caught up in what we have learned mentally, emotionally, even spiritually in spiritual teaching, and how that informs what we do every day. We will work and get outside of our comfort zone for wealth.
Oh, right.
We will work and get outside of our comfort zone for status and power. But will we work outside of our comfort zone for actual wellness that will bring you more wealth and abundance than you probably could get when you neglect it? I mean, I can say that for a fact.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with that. It's something that is part of, like, when you're speaking the language and your mind, body, and soul is on the same wavelength and you're coming from a place of authenticity, it drives you right into your abundance in life. But if you are
100%.
quite literally holding energy, low frequency energy within your cells, within your aura, within your body, like, that energy is being stored somewhere, right? And so I think that it's a really important topic to discuss, because we talk about trauma, heavy energy, or even ancestral trauma. There's famines and things where people are not given the basic necessities of life. And those traumas create behavioral patterns that are literally handed down ancestrally. That is like held within us in a cellular level. And so it is important to know how things can even get triggered in that way. And how do we go about getting to the other side of that? Learning how to actually connect to our bodies.
And I will say, I mean, for me, only because I am a physical, I connect to my energy, I connect to my emotions by moving my body. So I'm sure many of us, especially in the healer world, have heard of somatic movement. It's just moving in a way that feels good, that you feel you need. We don't know what we need. So part of my work is to help people figure out, given what I understand about their range of motion, their flexibility, their personal goals, and what their energy is telling me about them, and where they need to find balance in their chakra system, which will then come into their organ systems, their physicality. How how should you be moving to optimize your health in terms of coming closer to understanding yourself? Like right now, I have low back pain and just tension. And I know I'm just holding tension right now. You know, there's a lot of waiting happening. You know, I'm not super comfortable in that, the waiting zone. And it's coming into my body. So I move nice and slowly and deliberately in a way that feels good. It feels like release. It might not feel comfortable, but it's therapeutic discomfort. And that creates change.
Susan, I know you were going to say.
Yeah, I have a question. There's something, you know, I think I'm going to call it the white elephant in the room when it comes to our bodies, because we know, you know, we talk about the mind, body, soul connection all of the time, and they all feed each other. But I want to just stay right now in this area where our thoughts, the way we think about our body, and the way that we treat our body. And when we start getting into exercise, and that focus can lead to eating disorders. I've seen it a million times. Right. Sure. And I really want to talk about it because I think I did a whole series on eating disorders. I had a severe eating disorder myself when I was in high school and college. I taught aerobics for years. And it is this, I want to talk about it because it is this really weird thing when you are focused on your spiritual aspect of your life and you're getting into fitness, and all of a sudden something can shift and it can turn into this disordered eating. So I would love for you as a yoga instructor and all of the work that you're doing to speak to this, because I think we've all had an eating disorder. I think all three of us, right? Did you, Val, did you struggle with that as well?
It wasn't necessarily an eating disorder. I just didn't take eating seriously.
Okay. Disordered eating can look a lot of different ways.
I have a very, and this was the thing, and this is why it's important. I have a very positive body image. I'm on the thicker side, and I embrace that. I love that.
I love you.
I do. I'm full chested, full hips, and all that. And I don't care. I love that. But for me, it's just the distraction. Like, food for me is fuel. I'm not a foodie. I eat like a bird, and I just did not take the time, thought, or effort into creating actual meals for myself. And that actually was a huge problem for me. So yeah, that is a disorder, I guess, when you think about it, because hello, like you
weren't putting yourself first.
I wasn't. There was always something else on every day.
And I think that what I'm even talking about is even really, I hate to use the word pathological, but that's what it gets into when you really when it starts to become, you start to see your body change and you're loving that. And then a fear kicks in that you're going to start to gain weight. And this is how it starts to take over. I've got chills. So it was totally a channeled question. Yeah. So
yeah. Here I go. So I very much set the intention to do some healing around some grief work, et cetera, et cetera. Met Val, we did a ton of deep shadow work. I then did a hypnosis session, quantum. It was amazing, with the very specific intention of letting go of, I knew where the issues were coming from, the control, the expectations, all of it. And I knew it was the disordered eating. Pathological, I mean, the amount of water I drank so that I would flush out the toxins.
Right.
The number
and electrolytes too, by the way.
The amount of purposeful starvation under the guise of, intermittent fasting.
Yes, fasting.
Can't do it.
And cleanses. And I mean, there are definitely ways to cleanse your body while you're nourishing, which is the gift that Ayurveda has given me. But come into this last, say, 18 months, and as I age, I'm 51 now, noticing some changes that aren't really comfortable, but I know that I should be able to get ahead of, okay? So in doing that, I've recognized that I do have to be working out very differently and really eating almost more, Val, like that I have time for.
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot eat 100 grams of protein. I mean, I do have to drink some of that.
Yeah.
because I don't have enough time in the day to chew that much.
That's
You
true.
know?
I'm on that same wavelength. So I'm also noticing that I have to eat a lot more times a day. And I
Yes.
dropped 13 pounds in less than 2 months just by actually eating more and giving myself a variety of nutrients, not
Yes.
just coming from eating the same thing every single day. That's easy. My brain works in structure. I could do the same thing every day for the rest of my life, and that's comfortable for me. That I don't want to have to think about that stuff. That is too much. I have too many other things that I'm working on, but that is such a toxic mentality. You
Oh,
only have one body, and you do need to provide nutrients for brain function. You can actually get depression. You can get anxiety from not having nutrients. You can have all of these physical reactions. That's something that I really do want to talk about. You had said the body is the only vessel in this third dimensional experience that gives us direct one-on-one feedback to our existence. When you're having a physical symptom, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether, it's exhaustion, if you're gaining weight, if you're having pain somewhere, that is the last aspect of the mind, the body, and soul where it's screaming at you.
screaming.
Like there is something going on here. And we quite literally will go to the doctor, take a medication or whatever as a Band-Aid, and just subside some of the symptoms instead of diving into the root cause of the issue. What is the root cause? Now, sometimes
That's
it can
too
be,
uncomfortable, Val.
right. We have emotional issues. We have, chemical issues, we have our
Mhm.
environmental issues, and we also have our nutritional issues. So I really want to talk about that. And how do you actually listen to the body? Like, how did
Well,
you
okay.
start?
So I'm going to kind of try and answer both questions at the same time. All right.
Good.
Because disordered eating, for anyone who has ever experienced disordered eating, it really is an addictive personality. That was my version of addiction. It was my vice. Food was literally, I only ate it because I knew I had to eat it to survive. And I know I have to eat it to keep my muscles alive, but I wasn't doing enough to make lasting change that would impact my hormonal response. So of course, as I aged, I started to realize what I needed to do. And I had done a lot of healing, inner child healing, and healing of this disordered eating. Thank God, because now I'm able to feel a little bit thicker, notice changes that I, even so much as probably 2 years ago, would not have been comfortable with in my body. The gift has, in the work, come with me being able to have patience and presence and gratitude for what my body has taught me, and also to surrender to what is coming. And in doing that, I have had to create an abundance of nutrition and nourishment and rest for myself, because I have to be able to recover when I'm lifting heavier. But lifting heavier has helped my metabolism stay alive so that I'm not having as many or any night sweats or insomnia or, hot flashes. I mean, I'm not really getting a lot of that. I feel like, and I just very specifically had a hormonal workup done and I asked for it for my physical, because I want to see where I'm at from a baseline perspective. And I'm, kind of younger from a baseline perspective than the average of my age group. I'm willing to work through the mental and physical discomfort that comes with creating lasting change. And for me, it's been eating more, which is uncomfortable for me. Exercising less, not killing myself with cardio. That's going to actually do the opposite of, it's going to burn out my metabolism. So for me, it really, again, it started with yoga, but it also every day comes back to a daily meditation, listening to my breath. I invite everybody to try one thing today. It doesn't have to be now. Close your eyes and sit. You don't have to get into a meditative state. You breathe in, notice the pause when you reach full, breathe out, Notice the pause when you reach empty, and you hold a little bit in those empty states. Do it a couple of times and notice the difference between each feeling. For me, feeling filled with the breath and the nourishment and nutrients of life is actually uncomfortable for me. I don't, you know what, it's from an energetic perspective, I'm like, oh, I just want to exhale. And when I exhale and feel empty, I was like, oh yeah, this is familiar. I understand lack. I understand not wanting or feeling I deserve to be breathing this life in more deeply. Yeah, well, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
So you get to the point where when your body I have had, one of the reasons I know the body as well as I do, and now teach anatomy, is because I have injured my pinky, my wrist, my elbows, my shoulders, my upper back, because I was just moving through, because my emotions were in such a state, and my mental state was spinning constantly and worrying about status and what people thought. My daughter did competitive dance for a long time. And, like that energy that was not healthy for me. And I now recognize that by being completely who I am, I'm actually creating the life that I'm like, oh, this is all that I've been working for. And it all started with me just noticing what it feels like to breathe on purpose.
I love that. I love that. And I want to add something. The deep work that I do with my clients is really, they come to me in deep grief, but it really is about alignment and self-love. And we think self-love as an emotion rather than a state of being, which is what you are talking about, and getting into that quiet state of being and connecting with our higher consciousness or our soul, whatever anybody wants to call it. And I want to talk about the self-loathing piece, because a lot of people think that they love themselves, and their self-loathing comes out in all of these different ways: judgment of self, judgment of others. But the easy place to go, especially for women, although I know that this is very true for men as well, is judgment of the body. It's the easiest thing. You don't want to look in the mirror. You pinch yourself. There's always an area of the body that you hate, right? And hate carries such a low vibration. And some of the work that I do with the clients is, it's very simple. What part of you can you love? And I heard a channel come through the other day, and I knew she was going to say her fingernail. That's all she could find about, and I could feel the sadness in my chest well up, that the only thing on her body that she could love was her fingernail. And I said, you know what? Start with, I call it the exception, right? Start with the exception so that you can make that bigger, right? Let the light shine in brighter, integrate, right? So I'd love for you to speak to, sorry, Val, if I'm hijacking your next question, but I would love for you to talk about this idea of self-love, because that is what you are talking about. And for so many people, they are so cerebral. That is why it is so uncomfortable to even meditate for 3 minutes, where their thoughts go. So I would love for you to speak to this idea of, did you want to add something?
I want to add before she starts. So go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You can add
do
to
think
that.
It does start with the mind. Obviously, even me, that like I said, I have a very positive body image. I don't even struggle with that. And I noticed when I couldn't lose that weight, how frustrated I was. I went to my doctor. I did a gut test. Now, I did all of the right things, because I do take my body seriously. And I'm like, okay, let me check my gut. Let me check my blood work. Let me check everything, not even thinking about food. But I was mad. I was genuinely scared to eat, because I was like, wait, like my body's not functioning right. And I can't afford to even put on another pound right now, because I can't even fit in my pants. This is so annoying. And I've actually never been in that situation before.
That's that is for somebody like me. I mean, it's literally, don't have a drink. It's that big of, don't step on the scale today, Ken. You don't need to.
I was
I have
scared.
a friend who always says to me, like, you need to throw your scales away.
Yeah.
Your scales, don't tell you what your worth is, which I can say till the cows come home, and it's still, it's still kind of trickling out of me.
Me too.
Okay.
Totally.
I also work in an industry, and I started in an industry that is very physical. Okay. Yoga, to me, is a philosophy. It's a way of life. I very much embraced yoga as my foundation always. But if you started as a yogi in the North Shore of Massachusetts in 1998, and there was one studio, and that was a Bikram studio, or one studio that you could easily find, and then you watched that explosion up until the pandemic, what it became was a status symbol where you went, a bastardized fitness industry. I can't tell you how many people would come to small classes or private sessions with me who had rotator cuff injuries, low back injuries, because they're in a classroom full of 65 people. And while their form is safe enough that an instructor doesn't have to go over and, like the first thing you adjust for is safety, they're not going to do that when there's 65 people. They might have somebody who's, in worse alignment that they have to. So you are chronically injuring your body because you're not actually there to tune in.
So that goes
You're
to the
there.
self-love thing where we're gonna push our boundaries in any way, whether it's connected to a social construct, whether it's connected to
Yes,
society.
exactly.
And people just put their blinders on. They have all of what the media says is normal and what is good and what is right in the world. And
Right.
instead of stopping and saying, wow, like I need to do what's right for my body and what's right for me. And how do I actually love myself? How do I, right?
And that's why I will now only work. That's why working privately for me instead of teaching. I love teaching a large class. Class energy is great, but even my classes, I like small. I want to connect with you because I'm not going to create long lasting change in a room full of 65 people. It might resonate with one person, but like I can resonate faster and deeper on a one-on-one level because that's the way I connect to myself. We, again, like that physical vessel, right? And if I can use an example, go ahead, please.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and you also really dive into a lot of like the shadow stuff as well, where when you are working with people, you are also seeing past lives or seeing ancestral trauma. You've gotten to that point where you are incorporating all of it together, and that can be quite beneficial for people. Like you have this tendency because your ancestors experienced like a Great Depression, and so you are going to hoard in all of these ways, and this is going to be your tendency, and there's going to be rations or whatever the case may be, or we can't spend in money and invest in ourselves, and that's another thing that we'll talk about before we wrap up today. But yeah, I think that is where the change comes in.
So like by way of example, so I have had the pleasure of working with a young adult, couple of young adults this past summer who were struggling. It was a struggle, but they connect deeply to their body. And we were able in 1 or 2 sessions to figure out the path for them. And a lot of it was connecting to breath, connecting to movement, connecting to mantra, all of that repetitive, but I also work on the very other end of the spectrum. And I have a couple of clients who are older, as old as 88, 75, who I see regularly, weekly, a couple of times a week, and originally started as training, like personal training. But what it has become, especially in this one case, I have a client who, and I will speak in general terms, they have multiple back issues, multiple unhealthy curvatures in the spine, multiple injuries, still working daily, working out, moving, but doing it again because there is a call to continue that like mental, emotional aspect of life rather than the physical. But what I have been able to do with this older person is make them realize oh, maybe that tension that I'm feeling is worse because of all that I've been through this week. That's huge at that age. You know, to be able to go, well, this is a chronic issue for you because of, you know, your day-to-day patterns. However, if you think about, and I always put it in terms of, if this were your child or your friend, and they were telling you all that has been put upon you in this last couple of weeks, on top of the stress that you already put upon yourself, would you go, oh, no wonder you have neck pain or shoulder pain or back pain? And this person said, oh, I don't think I ever thought of it that way. But the more you say it, you're probably right. I probably am holding tension there because of, well, yes, you are. And you have been for 88 years.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, I can sit in this person's presence and understand deeply with compassion and empathy why. This person is a self-made individual. Like, I understand where all of it came from.
And
You
it's
can
not
still help
linear,
yourself.
you
Oh
know.
my God.
For me,
No,
you know how I
because
was
it's,
getting that random spasm for a couple of years? Never got it again. There was so many energetic issues connected to that one little spot in my back. And I'll
yep.
tell you, the last time I pulled it, it was so dumb. Remember, I was like moving
Yeah.
up the stand, and it wasn't even a heavy
Yeah.
one. I
John
literally
pulls
had
his back up, flossing his teeth sometimes.
I was trying to roll out of bed and I just prayed my feet hit the floor before the rest of my
Yeah.
body because the spasm was that bad. I
Oh
got
my God.
stuck once and I'm yelling up to my daughter, Angie, help me. But it's real. And
It's
Yeah.
totally, yes.
yep, right. And we've all probably
And
been there.
I feel too, so again, it doesn't matter the age. You can connect with your body no matter what age you are. We happen to be in a generation, I would feel our generation and the younger generation, where we're kind of like, all right, bring it. Let's see what I'm capable of, right? Where the older generation, not so much, but you can very subtly bring them into some compassion. They may never get to self-love. That's a lot of work, you know, and the older you get, the less work you're going to want to do towards something like that that's so uncomfortable. But you can certainly create a little bit more self-compassion at any age.
Planting the
It's
seeds of
okay
awareness.
to be tired.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel sluggish and like you want to move and have no idea how to start. That's why you find people who can help you and go, okay, well, you know, maybe weight training isn't for you yet, but let's strengthen up your core with some Pilates or, you know, a little bit of yoga. And then when you're stronger and more aware of yourself and more confident in yourself, you can add that weight. It is a long ass journey, folks.
Yeah.
It
But
is.
the
And
earlier you start,
I want to add I want to add something else that you're saying that I'm feeling also, that I think that human beings are so inundated with task-driven things that they have to do. And when it comes to exercise, you know, if they feel like they've got to go to the gym, it becomes something daunting. And I'm very much into how do you make anything turn into play? My husband is a very serious man, so it doesn't matter if we're shoveling. I'm like, can we have some fun? Can we bring levity? And he's like, no, this is very serious. I got to shovel it. I got to get it done. And I'll start
should
throwing
meet John.
snowballs. Yeah, yeah. So, and for me, I'm just the opposite. I'm almost never serious. And so if I'm not enjoying it, forget it. If I've got to enjoy the
Fine.
physical activity that I'm doing, whether it's biking, I love to paddleboard. I have these workouts that I enjoy. For me, it has to be fun. And if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. The older I get, the less I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time if I'm not going to enjoy it, because the levity and the play is what A, keeps us in the moment, and B, we want to go back for more. We want to keep going back for more. What can you enjoy? I don't care if you're flying a kite with your 10-year-old nephew. Just start with something that's fun so that you can move your body in a playful way.
I totally agree with that. My dog and I race down the stairs and he actually talks to me and he wins every single time. I live on the 4th floor. And so we race down and we race up. And it's just like a moment that we do like 2 or 3 times a day. And it's like, it's always like he's laughing in my face. I know this sounds ridiculous, but if you're a dog owner, you get it. But those moments, or when I'm on the treadmill, I'm not feeling like I need to be sprinting. I actually do a treadmill dance, and I put on my favorite music and I dance while I'm walking on the treadmill. I don't care if I'm going 3 miles an hour. If I'm dancing, I'm actually using more muscles. That's more fun for me. And so I love the idea of non-traditional things for movement. And I love the idea of it being fun, and it doesn't have to be what society says either. So thank you,
Right.
Susan. That's such a good
And
point.
it is such a good point, because again, probably until very recently, my workouts were, I had to, and I still do kind of like I schedule myself into my day every day. But there will be days where I'm supposed to do like a chest and back workout, and I'm like, yeah, not today. It's going to be yoga all the way. That's different. That's new. But
good for you.
It was work. It was part of my work day. It's not anymore. Now I'm like, especially with a little bit more heavy lifting, I turn on some really good 80s dance music, and I just go. And I'm like, I had to do a lot of healing around my heart and my solar plexus. So the empowerment that I get from that, and like for me, it's helping people find what resonates with them, whether it be movement, healing modalities. Not everybody's a Thai bodywork person, but they might love the polarity bodywork. You know what I mean? So that's where we create this personalized plan. And I say, all right, as they level up, now we're going to start to dive a little bit deeper into that energy stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
The one thing,
whatever the entry point is for people, right? That's it. It's like, what's your entry point? Like I said, I'm working with this client, and I just want him to sit for 5 minutes, and it's torturous for him right now. So I'm like, great, try 60 seconds. I don't care where you start. It doesn't even matter, and I love the idea of baby steps, because what is your baby step? What is it?
Everything's relative. Yeah.
Yes.
I have another older
thing to kind of share with the audience. Like, what is your baby step in the direction of supporting your body?
Love that.
So yeah, thank you again, Susan. That was a great thing to say.
And a lot of people who aren't comfortable with, a tremendous amount of movement, or they're a little bit afraid because they have aches and pains, it really can be, if it's movement, it can be chair yoga. It could be mantra instead of breath, or mantra with breath.
It could be anything. You could be washing your dishes and put a 1 pound weight on your feet and just stand there and walk in place as you're doing your dishes. What people don't get is it doesn't have to be traditional. And the one other thing that I wanted to talk about is, just very, very briefly touching on what we find so valuable about what we invest in within ourselves. We spend money on clothes, homes, vacations, like cars, our coffee every week, but God forbid someone say, get organic vegetables, or, buy yourself some supplements that are actually going to support your body. And like, I remember the horror at first when I first started diving into it. My supplements cost $165 a month. I do not care. Okay. I know my body needs
the alternative.
What was that?
Cheaper than the alternative of being sick.
Oh yeah, it is. Think about the sickness and the exhaustion and the money that people spend on medications, whatever the case may be, the loss of time at work, like it's valuable, it's worth it. And so I do want to say that, and quickly also touch on chemicals that our body absorb into our system. I have been on a kick with that too, with really knowing the thousands of chemicals that are okay and supposedly safe in the United States, and there might be under 300 in Europe, and we have thousands. So I just want to bring that little blip of awareness to people as they're kind of watching this whole body thing today, because it's something to really put some thought into as well.
Yeah, that becomes that integrative part of the journey. You start to want to give more of a shit. Pardon my language, but you really do start to be aware of all the little things.
Yep. I got a clay rice cooker. I'm doing castor oil. I have different, laundry detergent. I am on a mission. Even my containers for my food prep, I'm like, I'm going all glass, forget the plastic, but it is wild how we are quite literally poisoning ourselves. So yeah. Thank you
Well,
so
we are at the top of the hour. This has gone by
Yeah.
so fast. And before we close, Val, do you have any other questions that you want to ask Kendra? And if not, Kendra, is there anything that you would like to talk to our listeners about that we have not touched on?
I don't think so. I just think kind of in a nutshell, like my last takeaway point would be have patience with yourself, be willing to be present with yourself for a breath or 5 or, you know, an hour of your day every day so that you can tune in, and have gratitude for what you have learned already and surrender to what you will be learning.
Yes.
All of that is going to bring you to balance, and you just have to find the right combination. So I'm here when you're ready.
Yeah, check out Kendra. She'll teach you how to listen to the subtleties of your body.
I love it. Thank you so
Because those
much.
subtleties are the most important part, right?
They are. Yeah, it's changed my life.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you on today. And all of your information will be in the show notes for people to find you, reach you, and, you know, ask all of the questions about the body.
And their first consult is free with me. So especially, and then their first appointment, if they were to mention this podcast, they will get 20% off that first session with me.
Oh, great. Okay,
Awesome.
super. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
For those of you,
All right, guys.
yeah, for those of you listening, I did just want to add in for people that are just starting their spiritual journey to please check us out. Spiritual People of New England page. There's also sorts of supports, practitioners. Our podcast will be posted on there and the YouTube channel. But it really is a great place to have a networking community of people that are here to support you on your journey. So again, just check that out if you have time. All right.
Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Great day.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.